Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Crank, starring Jason Statham, Amy Smart, and Neville, and pretty much everybody else, directed by Neville Dean and Taylor. Now, before I get into this, I gotta just say it now. I like this movie, even though I didn't see it in theaters at the time. I like the idea of it, but I watched it when it was new on video, and I do remember enjoying that as I was having a good time with it. Let's see if that still remains true, as I watched this movie quite a few times. Well, not for the show, but I only watched it once for the show. But let's see how this goes. Let's get into it. Chef Chilios, played by Jason Statham, wakes up feeling drugged as he plays a DVD saying he was poisoned by Ricky Verona, and Chev goes ballistic as he has an hour left to live, and he beats the shit out of his TV and finds a way to get to Ricky Verona, and his heart beats faster than usual, and he calls his girlfriend and Dr. Miles, and the slower he moves, the better chances he will die. But if he goes faster, he will live. Chev and Kalo, who's played by Efren Ramirez, who I know this actor from Napoleon Dynamite, as Chev tells him to find Verona, and he goes out to an African American club to ask the head gangster where Verona is, and the gangster says Ricky Verona fucked him in a job and doesn't know where he is. And Chev gets cocaine in him and realizes he needs to keep moving and kick some asses of the motherfuckers who drugged him. While he does, Chev gets a call from Verona about the Chinese drug Verona gave him for a job he didn't pull off, and Dr. Miles calls and tells Chev to keep moving as he breaks through the mall. And I love the beginning sequence, as this whole movie is energetic. And I gotta give credit to the directors, Neville Dean and Taylor, who I've talked about in Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, and maybe want to talk about the rest of their careers together, I'll say, for pulling off the energetic material, and it works very well. Chev goes to Carlito's palace to tell him to find the antidote of the Chinese drug given to Chev, and gets difficult for Chev as he gets out of and steals the taxi cab from the driver driving him around earlier in the film, and gets another call from Doc Miles about his medical experience, and gets another call from Kalo, and goes to him because Verona's brother gets in a restaurant and goes into the back and chops off his brother's hand, and they fight as Kalo comes in, and Chev shoots the brother's head with his own gun and calls Ricky and tells him his brother is dead, and Ricky becomes hysterical about it, and his taxi cab is towed, and he goes to the hospital to pick up some medicine, and that'll keep him going, and disguises himself as a patient at the hospital as he's getting chased by security guards at the hospital, and gets a guy who works at the hospital hostage so he can juice Chev up as he gets the antidote and sticks in his arm, and continues to run as Doc Miles calls from the airplane from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, and he says he's on the TV and sees a cop and takes his gun and messes around with him and steals the motorcycle and crashes it like a maniac, and gets a call by his girlfriend Eve, played by Amy Smart, as he goes to her apartment and he changes her microwave clock as he's almost dead, and burns his hand, and takes her out of the apartment and fights a couple of Verona's men, which was funny as the movie is fucking hilarious in at times. Because it is so chaotic, I'm really enjoying these scenes. Chev tells Eve he kills people for a living and doesn't pull the trigger when he does a job for Verona, and he quit the business for Eve. Chev humps Eve in the public all over Chinatown as everyone watches, which was really funny, and Kalo interrupts by calling Chev, telling him the location of Verona, as he takes a cab and takes a drug from the cab driver to not die in the cab. Meanwhile, Kalo is killed, and and Chev goes to the building where Verona is, and throws off a man working for Carlito as he wants Chev gone, and as Eve arrives at the warehouse. When they have a shootout, and what was hilarious was says by was the guy owner of the factory says to Chev, "Hey asshole," and Eve says out loud, "My boyfriend kills people," which was hilarious. I laughed out loud. Chev and Eve get away with from Carlito's men as they chase them, and as Eve performs intercourse with Chev while he's driving, which is incredibly fucking dangerous. As Chev gets out of the car and shoots Carlito's men dead, Doc Miles calls Chev to get the antidote in his office, and he gives Chev 1 hour to kill Verona. And Chev makes a deal with Verona, and that line, "See you later, sunshine." It made me laugh the hardest. It was so fucking hilarious. Chev prepares to meet Verona on the roof of the building as he talks with Orlando in the elevator, and Chev gets to Verona and sees Verona and Carlito are working together. And Carlito gives Chev another round of the Chinese drug, and the Chinese get into the picture after Chev pulls the finger pointed like a gun, and a shootout begins as Verona gets his fingers chopped off. And Chev points a gun at Verona and goes after both Verona and Carlito and catches up with Carlito, and Verona gives more of the Chinese death drug to Chev and shoots Carlito. And Chev gets on the helicopter with Verona and have a fight as they're both thrown off together. And Chev kills Verona by breaking his neck and keeps falling and calls Eve to leave her a message. And he crashes on a car and lands on the street, and a possible blink coming from Chev. Maybe he's alive or dead, we'll see him next time, but the climax was funny and fun like this whole movie. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.1 out of 10. This movie is a guilty pleasure of mine as it's a shitload of fun. I love how energetic this movie is, and Jason Statham pulls off this material and with Neville Dean and Taylor very well. And I'm glad we're getting a second part, and we'll see how that goes. And I was laughing out loud at this movie as it's fucking hilarious. So I will be back next time with Crank 2 High Voltage. And until next time, let's give it a rest, Chev. Let's give it a rest.